Jacob lived in the land where his father had sojourned, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was tending the flock with his brothers. He was still a young man and was with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought a bad report of them to their father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his sons, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said to them, "Please listen to this dream which I have dreamed. We were binding sheaves in the field, and my sheaf rose up and stood upright, and your sheaves gathered around and bowed down to my sheath." His brothers said to him, "Will you indeed reign over us? Will you indeed have dominion over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Then he had another dream and told it to his brothers, saying, "Behold, I have had another dream, and behold, the sun and the moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me." When he told it to his father and his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow down ourselves to the ground before you?" His brothers envied him, but his father kept the matter in mind. His brothers went to pasture their father's flock near Shechem. Israel said to Joseph, "Are not your brothers pasturing the flock at Shechem? Come, and I will send you to them." And he replied, "Here I am." So he said to him, "Go now, see whether it is well with your brothers and well with the flock, and bring me back word." So he sent him out from the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. A man found him wandering in the field, and the man asked him, "What are you looking for?" He said, "I am looking for my brothers. Please tell me where they are pasturing." The man said, "They have moved on from here, for I heard them say, 'Let us go to Dothan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. They saw him from afar, and before he came near them, they conspired against him to kill him. They said to one another, "Look, here comes the dreamer. Come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits, and we will say, 'A wild beast has devoured him.' Then we will see what becomes of his dreams." But Reuben heard it and rescued him out of their hands, saying, "Let us not take his life." Reuben said to them, "Do not shed blood. Throw him into this pit in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand on him, so that he might rescue him later and restore him to his father." So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his coat, the coat of many colors that he wore. Then they took him and threw him into the pit. The pit was empty, there was no water in it. They sat down to eat, and when they looked up, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead, with their camels carrying spices, balm, and myrrh, going down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and not lay our hands on him, for he is our brother, our own flesh." And his brothers agreed. When Midianite merchants passed by, they drew Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit, and sold him for 20 pieces of silver to the Ishmaelites, who took Joseph to Egypt. When Reuben returned to the pit and saw that Joseph was not there, he tore his clothes. He returned to his brothers and said, "The boy is gone, and where shall I go?" Then they took Joseph's coat, slaughtered a young goat, and dipped the coat in the blood. They took the coat of many colors to their father and said, "We found this. Do you recognize whether this is your son's coat or not?" He recognized it and said, "It is my son's coat. A wild beast has devoured him. Joseph hath surely been torn to pieces." Jacob tore his garments, put sackcloth on his waist, and mourned his son for many days. All his sons and daughters rose to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. He said, "I will go down to my son mourning to the grave." Thus his father wept for him. Meanwhile, the Midianites sold Joseph in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard.
It came to pass at that time that Judah went down from his brothers and turned aside to a man of Adullam named Hira. There Judah saw the daughter of a Canaanite man named Shua. He took her and went into her. She conceived and bore a son, and he called his name She conceived again and bore a son, and she called his name Onan. Yet again she bore a son, and she called his name Shelah. Judah was in Kezib when she bore him. Judah took a wife for his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord put him to death. Then Judah said to Onan, "Go in to your brother's wife and perform the duty of a brother-in-law to her, and raise up offspring for your brother." But Onan knew that the offspring would not be his, so when he went in to his brother's wife, he spilled his seed on the ground, so that he would not give offspring to his brother. What he did was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord put him to death also. Then Judah said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, "Live as a widow in your father's house until Shelah, my son, grows up," for he thought he too might die like his brothers. So Tamar went and lived in her father's house. After a long time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. When Judah was comforted, he went up to Timnah to his sheep shearers, he and his friend Hira the Adullamite. When Tamar was told, "Your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep," she took off her widow garments, covered herself with a veil, wrapped herself, and sat at the entrance to Ainaim, which is on the way to Timnah, for she saw that Shelah had grown up, and she was not been given to him as a wife. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a prostitute, because she had covered her face. He turned to her at the roadside and said, "Come now, let me sleep with you," for he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. She said, "What will you give me that you may sleep with me?" He answered, "I will send you a young goat from the flock." She replied, "Will you give me a pledge until you send it?" He said, "What pledge shall I give you?" She said, "Your seal and your cord and the staff in your hand." So he gave them to her and slept with her, and she conceived by him. Then she got up and went away, removed her veil, and put on her widow garments again. Judah sent the young goat by his friend the Adullamite to get back the pledge from the woman's hand, but he did not find her. He asked the men of that place, "Where is the prostitute who was beside the road at Ainaim?" They replied, "There has been no prostitute here." So he returned to Judah and said, "I did not find her," and the men of the place said, "No prostitute has been here." Judah said, "Let her keep the pledge, or we shall become a laughingstock. I sent the young goat, but you did not find her." About 3 months later, Judah was told, "Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has played the harlot, and she is pregnant by harlotry." Judah said, "Bring her out and let her be burned." As she was being brought out, she sent word to her father-in-law, "By the man to whom these things belong, I am pregnant." She said, "Please recognize whose seal and cord and staff these are." Judah recognized them and said, "She is more righteous than I, since I did not give her to my son Shelah." And he did not sleep with her again. When the time came for her to give birth, there were twins in her womb. During the birth, one of them put out his hand. The midwife took a scarlet thread and tied it around his hand, saying, "This one came out first." But as he drew back his hand, his brother came out. She said, "What a breach you have made!" So he was named Perez. Afterward, his brother came out with the scarlet thread on his hand, and he was named Zerah.
Joseph was taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an Egyptian officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had brought him there. The Lord was with Joseph, and he became a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his Egyptian master. His master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did prosper in his hand. So Joseph found favor in his sight and served him, and Potiphar made him overseer of his house and put everything he had under Joseph's care. From the time he made him overseer of his house and all that he had, the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. The blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had, in the house and in the field. So Potiphar left everything he had in Joseph's care, and with him there he concerned himself with nothing except the food he ate. Joseph was handsome in form and appearance. After these things, his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph and said, "Lie with me." But he refused and said to his master's wife, "My master does not concern himself with anything in the house, and he has committed all that he has into my hand. There is no one greater in this house than I, and he has kept nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" Though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he did not listen to her to lie with her or even be with her. One day he went into the house to do his work, and none of the men of the household were inside. She caught him by his garment, saying, "Lie with me," but he left his garment in her hand and fled outside. When she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and had fled outside, she called the men of her household and said, "Look, my husband has brought us a Hebrew to mock us. He came in to lie with me, and I screamed with a loud voice. When he heard me raise my voice and scream, he left his garment beside me and fled outside." She kept his garment beside her until his master came home. Then she told him the same story. "The Hebrew servant whom you brought to us came in to mock me, but as soon as I raised my voice and screamed, he left his garment beside me and fled outside." When Joseph's master heard his wife's words, saying, "This is what your servant did to me," his anger burned. So Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined, and Joseph was there in the prison. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy, giving him favor in the sight of the warden. The warden put Joseph in charge of all the prisoners who were in the prison, and everything that was done there, he was the one who oversaw it. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's authority, because the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made it prosper.